how to make $200 per hour on Fiverr in 2020. Hey everyone, it's Mike Nardi here, and this is my first video for y'all for 2020. But before we begin, make sure to leave a comment in the comment section of this video and any other video. The whole purpose of me putting out these videos and this channel is to be helpful to you. So leave me a comment, let me know what you'd like to see in a future video as it relates to making money online or on Fiverr, and I'll do my best to put something out for you. And before I forget, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. It makes me feel good and it's really helpful. Thanks. Alright, so let's get into it. Making $200 per hour on Fiverr. Is it possible? Can you do it? Yeah, you can. Absolutely you can. In this video, I'm going to break down some key tips that I've learned over my past year working on Fiverr that'll help you streamline your workflow, complete projects faster, and ultimately raise the amount of money you're making per hour. I've been able to get to over $200 per hour. I don't think I'm anything special. I definitely think you can too. Before I get into these specific tips, here's a rough idea of how well they worked for me. After 3 months of starting on Fiverr, I was able to get my hourly earnings up to $60 per hour. In my 4th month, that $60 per hour increased to $97 per hour. In my 5th month, I passed $150 per hour. 6 months, I just squeaked past $175, and finally, I got to it. In my 7th month, I broke past $200 per hour, and I finished at $245 per hour across all of my gigs for that month. So in total, it took me 7 months from when I started in February of 2019 to August of 2019. It took me 7 months, I got to $200 per hour worked on Fiverr, and since then, the beauty of it's been that it's stayed over $200 per hour. So from August to now, January 2020, I haven't dipped below $200 earned per hour on Fiverr, which is fantastic. So the first thing that I did that had a serious impact on how much I was able to earn per hour was I started to track absolutely everything. I tracked the day that I was completing and delivering an order. I tracked the type of order it was. You know, which Fiverr project was that order related to? Because I offer quite a few gigs on Fiverr. I started to track the industry or the type of business the people I was working for were in, and I'll explain why this was important later. I tracked how much I was earning from particular orders after Fiverr took its 20% cut. I even tracked to the minute how many minutes it was taking me to complete each order, and this allowed me to figure out what my hourly earnings were. So I'm going to flip over to my computer and show you what that spreadsheet actually looks like so you have an idea. Alright, so this is the spreadsheet that I've been using since starting on Fiverr back in February of 2019. I try my best to track every single order that I complete and deliver to my clients in this spreadsheet, and I'll explain why later. So the main columns that I use here is I track the date that I actually complete and deliver the project to my client. I track the type of business or the industry that my clients fall into, and this is helpful for a number of reasons that I'll explain in a minute. I track the type of project I was completed. So I actually offer a couple of different types of gigs on Fiverr, and I use this to help me identify what a project was related to. I track the actual number of minutes it takes me to complete by the minute, and this is very important to help me figure out how much I'm valuing my time, what my rate of earnings per hour is. I track my earnings after fees, so after Fiverr's 20% tax, and then I track the actual amount of money I'm making per hour based on the amount of time it's taken me to complete that particular gig and my earnings after Fiverr fees. So how's all this helpful? Well, by tracking what I'm doing on Fiverr, it helped me visualize what I was actually doing with my time. So, it's really hard to do that if you're not actually writing things down. And once I started writing things down, it helped me stay motivated, stay hungry, because I was seeing the numbers that I was putting in. And it was making me happy to see how much money I was making and how I was able to streamline my process. Also, it served as a great reference point to look back to for future orders, and I'll explain that in a second. This is all very important to me. I offer a number of different gigs on Fiverr, and I need to make sure that where I'm spending my time is worth my time. So by tracking everything, I'm able to very quickly and easily compare different gigs, compare how valuable those gigs are to me, and compare how much money I'm making per minute that I'm spending on those gigs. So since starting to track my completed orders on a spreadsheet, I've been able to identify which gigs I should drop, and I've actually canceled quite a few gigs on Fiverr and focused on the gigs that are netting me the most ROI for my time. So just a moment ago, I mentioned that by tracking my gigs that I complete on a spreadsheet, it's helped me with future gigs. Let me explain what I mean by that. So let's say a buyer messages you and asks if you can complete a certain project, and they work in a certain industry. By tracking the gigs you've completed in the past and tracking the industries that those gigs fall into, you can quickly reference back and say, okay, this person works in, the mechanical engineering industry or the cannabis industry. I've done 10 or 15 projects for this type of industry in the past. That both gives you the confidence to know that you can complete this project. It gives you an answer to respond to them saying, hey, yeah, I've worked in this industry before. And it helps you identify past gigs that you can use as references or show proof of concepts or proofs to future buyers that you can actually complete this type of work. This all depends on your personal policies, but if you send work samples, this helps you identify which past orders you should be sending as a work sample, as you'd want to send what relates to their industry, right? The second reason this is so important is it helps me and it can help you get inspired for completing future gigs. I'm gonna be real with you, I've completed over 170 gigs and orders on Fiverr over the last year. That's a lot of orders, and I've worked in a lot of different industries. And lucky for me, the work that I've been delivering has been well received and rated 5 stars. So when I get a future order that's related to a past industry that I've worked in, why would I not want to see what worked in the past? By tracking your orders and tracking the industries and the types of companies you've been working with, you can very easily reference back to see what's worked and use that as inspiration for completing a future order. This will allow you to play off of your past successes and continue to deliver orders that are netting you 5 stars and building you happy repeat buyers. It's a no-brainer, but not a lot of people do it. The second tip or best practice that I've learned through my work on Fiverr over the past year is constantly trying to streamline my process. You should do it, everybody should do it. You should analyze how much time and what steps you're taking at every step of your process and try to find ways that you can make things better. I'll explain in a second. I'll use myself as an example. I'm a copywriter. My process of working with and delivering orders to clients can basically be broken down into 3 main parts. 1, a client places an order with me and completes my requirements questions. 2, I review those requirements questions and I complete the work. And 3, I deliver the work. 3 steps. But when I first started, I didn't really think about these 3 steps. So I'd get an order that came in, I wouldn't have really any requirements questions. I'd kind of wing it and write it, do my best, and try to deliver the work in a way that I thought would look professional, and then I would just send it to them in a document. It worked and I got by, but this definitely was not the best way of doing things. So when I decided to start streamlining my process, these were the 3 areas that I focused on. Let's start with gig requirements. When I looked at, let's say at the time that I started, the past 40 orders that I completed, I noticed that there were common questions that buyers were asking me before submitting an order. Can you do this? What do you do with this? How does this work? I was getting a lot of the same questions, and I realized I'd be answering these questions via Fiverr chat for every single order. It was wasting so much time. So I decided, why not use the requirements section of a buyer placing an order to save me time, to enable me to complete orders better, and to set me up to have a better chance of succeeding with the buyer. I deliver the project and they would love the order because I took the time to outline the proper requirements questions. So this is what that looks like. I changed my order from having 1 requirement question to having 7, and I'm gonna do a screen share right now to show you. So basically when I started on Fiverr, I only really had 1 requirement question on all of my orders, and that was, quote unquote, what do you want me to help you with? And obviously, that wasn't very helpful to me or my buyers. It left me asking a lot of questions after an order was submitted, and it left my buyers feeling like I really didn't know what they actually wanted. So I switched that, and I actually started asking the following 7 requirements, and this has helped me tremendously. So the first is I need an understanding of what you are trying to market. So basically this helps, in my case as a copywriter, understand the product or service my client wants me to write about. The second is I need to understand who your target audience is. So in my case, and in the case of many Fiverr sellers, the people you're working with are trying to sell something, or they have a product or a business that they own. So understanding who their audience is helps you tailor your delivery to that audience.
The next question is whether or not they have competitors. If so, who? By having your client fill out who their competitors are, it gives you a couple of URLs or Google searches you can run, give you a better understanding of that industry in general. The next question is whether or not their product works. If so, give me an example and I will use this to convince your customers. So as a copywriter, this is pretty important, right? Most of my clients want me to write something that's going to help them sell their product. So by having an understanding of how their product works, helped me write better copy. Next is, are you targeting new customers or existing customers? Pick one. Sequences I write target either new customers or existing customers. And this was actually a question that helped disqualify some buyers. So I offer different packages in my gigs, and sometimes buyer would try to cram their order into a particular package, basically trying to game the system to get a deal with me. This question helped avoid that. The second last question was whether or not they have a website. This is pretty straightforward. It allows me to do some research on their product or service. And lastly, what makes your business different from the competition? So as a copywriter, and this would apply to graphic design or other Fiverr services, understanding how your clients differentiate themselves or at least view themselves as different will help you tailor your final project to what they think of themselves. And that'll allow them to be happy with the final product and will actually make you feel like make them feel like you've made a little connection with them. And I think that'll result in a lot more higher ratings.
The second area that I focused on to save time through streamlining my process was the actual part where I had to complete the work for the client. I decided that for every order, I would follow 3 main steps to completion. The first is review buyer requirements, and if I had any questions about any of the answers to any of my requirements questions, I would message them immediately, and I would message them right away after they placed the order. The reason for this is I realized that if I had any questions about the order or the order requirements, I didn't want to leave it up to the buyer to procrastinate and not send those answers back to me till near the end of the order completion timeline. So I decided that every time I reviewed buyer requirements, if I had any questions, I would immediately ask for clarification. That way I would have the answers for when I got started on the project. The second part of my order completion process was to review their website. No matter how simple or how complex, I always review their website if they provided one to give me a good feel for the business I was working for. Believe it or not, this helps save a lot of time because mentally I have a visual of the type of company that I'm doing business with, and it's going to help me deliver a project that aligns to that business. And the third step, and arguably the biggest time saver, was creating a pre-made template that looks professional, has some common tips or pointers that I include with every order, and then a section where I deliver the completed work. You can create this however you'd like, but I created one so that every time I completed a project, I copy and paste it into the template and I deliver it. It looks professional, it looks pretty, buyers are gonna love it. This saved me a lot of time because I found that for every order, I was constantly trying to format it in Microsoft Word in a way where it looked good, it was easy to read and understand. By creating a template, this saved me countless hours over the past year of time in delivering a professional looking project. And the third area of my process that I mentioned was delivery. So I found that most buyers would have questions after I delivered an order. And I actually made a video about this, and you'll find the link pop up somewhere on the screen or in the description. But I started using Fiverr's quick response functionality to add a very thorough and informative message with every delivery, outlining how to use the copy, the strategies I used for the copy, and anything else that I found important to negate or diffuse the possibility that a buyer might have questions. This saved me a lot of time because I wasn't answering as many questions anymore after completing the order. The alternative, and what I used to do, was just send the document and say, thank you for your order. This is fine, but it's not ideal because you're opening the door for them to answer questions. So by using Fiverr's quick response and creating some pre-written responses for the various industry types or customer types that you might be delivering orders for, this will help you save a lot of time. So that's what I did over the past year to streamline my process reduce the amount of time it was taking me to complete each order, and dramatically increase the amount of money I was making per hour of work on Fiverr. To summarize the things I talked about in this video, here are the key focus areas I talked about, so that if you want to go back and check on some of them, you can. I'll also include links in the description with timestamps during this video that you can quickly reference. The benefits of tracking every project you complete in a spreadsheet, how to use that spreadsheet to identify your most and least profitable gigs, how to use that spreadsheet to reference past projects, both for references and for inspiration for future orders that you're completing, and how to look at your process and identify areas that are repeatable where you can streamline to save countless hours of time over the year. Saving time, streamlining my process, ultimately led to me making way more money per hour over the past year on Fiverr. And it can help you do the same. I love Fiverr, but my time is valuable, and so is yours. So by taking these steps, you might very well be able to save countless and precious hours of time throughout the year or months of you working on Fiverr that will result in your time being worth more. You'll make more money per hour, you'll complete more projects more efficiently, and you'll ultimately become a better seller on Fiverr. So you should really consider looking into these pointers and applying them to your process if they apply on Fiverr. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope these tips are very helpful, and I hope that you can also streamline your Fiverr process to increase the amount of money you're making and the value of your time working on Fiverr. So thanks again. Have a great year selling in 2020. Look out for my next video, and thanks for watching. Cheers.